Hey everybody, welcome to Longbox. This is the Splash Network's monthly discussion about comic book titles, things that we love. Our chance to give you guys an idea of good places to start with characters that you might love, especially from other media. And if you want to get into the comics, you can check that out. Also a good way to highlight some just fantastic stories and things that we as comic book readers for years and years love and want to share. So the first one we're starting with is probably the best place I can think of because it's my all-time favorite comic book hero. It's Green Arrow Longbow Hunters by Mike Grell. And I got my guys Joe and Campbell here, Chris, to
hey guys,
to give us some input.
Hey, what's going on, Thor?
Same old, same old. Now, I'm pretty sure this was your first Green Arrow comic book, Campbell. So I'm assuming it was for you too, Joe?
You know it was. I'm the novice of the group when it comes to comic books. I'm the experienced movie watcher.
Yeah, we've all got the places that we have our expertise. So I think mine, at least a little bit, is Green Arrow. So let's see here. Green Arrow, it came out in 1987, the Longbow Hunters. Green Arrow at that point had been around since 1941, so he's been almost around 50 years at that point. And he didn't receive a ton of his own stories, and then this one, suggested for mature readers, a very much an adult tale, the Longbow Hunters. Written and drawn by Mike Grell, who I will go into great detail about how much I love Mike Grell throughout this thing. But let's start with, you guys knew enough about the character going into it from television, from cartoons, from him appearing in other comic books. Tell me what your first impressions were on just where Green Arrow is in his life when we start the book.
Midlife crisis.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that when I started reading it, I obviously right off the bat you could notice the different artistic style versus anything else. It was a great artistic style, and you can tell it was a darker, edgier. Which from everything that I've ever noticed, that's what the Green Arrow is. But first bat, I really wish he had the beard more often than everything else. I dig his beard a lot.
Oh, the Van Dyke?
Yeah. I dig his beard a lot. Growing my own little one. But yeah, no, I dig his beard a lot in this. And and I like how he's in a different aspect. He's in Seattle, is it based? Or Washington?
Yep, yeah. No, he's in Seattle. Yeah, so he had just moved into Seattle with Black Canary, and they're kind of starting their life there.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. For my aspect, I enjoyed the starting of it and where it places us.
What I got is when you gave it to me for my birthday, and I read the back cover as soon as you gave it to me, and the first thing I saw that it said was it strips the Green Arrow away from his gimmick and trick arrows. So in my mind already, because I read a lot of comics but I didn't read him, I kind of put this thing in my mind where it was almost like the late 60s, early 70s Batman, where they were using the influences from the show to be in the comic book, and he wasn't being a serious comic book. So this was kind of with the trick arrows and the gimmicks and stuff. Now they're kind of stripping them all away and bringing it right down to the basic that he's a hunter and that's what he's doing. He's patrolling and he's protecting. So I was really intrigued when I saw that. And then they jump in, and this is the only Arrow that I know, besides the TV show. I only know this book because I've not read anything since then. Almost to the point where, because I'm afraid that my kid started the New 52 and then started what's the new one they're at now? Rebirth. So he has 15 issues of New 52 and then he stopped reading it, and 15 issues of Rebirth and stopped reading it. And I always said I was going to jump into those and see what those are about. But I'm almost afraid that it's never going to compare to this because I love this story so much and the way he is in the story.
Yeah, well, luckily, when we end this, I've got some suggested reading for everybody who's enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to share that. But anyway, so you're right, very much like a midlife crisis. And like I said, he'd been around almost 50 years at this point. In the story, he's, in his early to mid 40s when we pick up. And when we pick off, Mike Grell really kind of sets the tone for what the Green Arrow will be for until present day. A lot of writers will kind of follow. We see the debut of Shadow, which is a very important character in Green Arrow's mythology. To this day, she has a different role in the New 52 that I'm not 100% sure how that carries over to Rebirth. But I think it's the same because a lot of that story things are referenced like Amiko and that kind of stuff. But that's way in the future. But she's introduced. Eddie Fires is introduced. He's going to be an important character throughout Mike Grell's Green Arrow run. And then he does appear on the Arrow show for sure at some point in the first season.
Who?
At least. Eddie Fires.
Okay. Oh, yeah, he does.
Now, what issues are these in this? Was this?
These are standalone books.
Okay.
These were 3 prestige formats. So if you owned the original books, they have no ads in them. They're bound, paper books. Pretty awesome too. If you want to go to Cave Comics and grab yourself one.
Did he start with this and then started his run, or did he have his run going and then these?
Right. So this is what led up to Green Arrow's first monthly ongoing series, and Mike Grell would end up doing 80 issues, and they are fantastic, and they're set apart from the DC world because they don't reference Superman or superpowers or anything that's overly spectacular. Hal Jordan appears in an issue, but not as the Green Lantern, just as Hal Jordan as Oliver Queen's friend. But getting back to the Longbow Hunters, Mike Grell, obviously he wrote it. He also did all the artwork for it. When it comes to his own run, he's got artists take over, but he does some of the covers and things. I love his art. This one's especially cool.
Yeah,
it's really, really amazing. It's eye popping. There's the fight scenes, and it's an adult comic.
Yeah. Thor, I just want to touch on this one more time, just because I find it so intriguing. So he was almost around for 50 years, and he never had his own book before that time. He was always
he had there was definitely a mini series.
Okay.
Where similar to this one. I cannot remember the name of it.
But not a monthly book though.
No, never a monthly book. He like a lot of heroes, he appeared in More Fun Comics. It was his first appearance, and then he did the very famous the Green Lantern Green Arrow books, which are the ones Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. The very famous Speedy shooting up heroin on the cover.
Yeah.
And,
the Drugs Attack one. Yeah, I remember that one.
And that was through the 70s, and that kind of was started building in his popularity. So then, he would have this book would go on from 88 or whatever when they started all the way up through to the mid 90s. And there was a couple years where he didn't have his own book, and then Kevin Smith brought it back. But we'll get to that. When it goes back to the story, we talk about the fantastic work, the pencil work by Mike Grell. So Oliver Queen is in a new city, and he's tracking down two killers at the same time. There's what they're referring to as the Seattle Slasher, right? Who's striking prostitutes.
Yes,
them.
The knifer.
And then there's this also this quote unquote Robin Hood killer, who's killing men in their 50s and 60s as they make their way across the United States towards the West Coast. So that right off there is kind of a bat, because you almost think Robin Hood killer. That's very similar to Albert Queen.
Right.
So that's how that evolves, and then Dina's very upset about the woman who crashed through. I love that. I don't know. It's dumb, and Mike Grell kind of has these very very funny sort of day jobs, because they have their flower shop. I don't know if it's referenced. I think it is.
It is referenced in there.
Right. Okay. Because I know they're in the building,
and it's right below where they live now, so it's the lower section of the castle-looking thing.
Yeah, and then and he does that where it's okay, he's a florist, Yeah. I think it's called, is it Sherwood Florist? I think.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, it's
I should know. Being
the
Green Arrow, I am.
No, that's the name on her shirt. The name on her shirt is Seattle Slugfest. So
yeah, that's just something.
I don't know if that's just a thing.
Yeah,
Sherwood Forest is correct.
Yeah, Sherwood Florist. That's really cool.
Yeah, I know that. So we get into that, and then he does a brief discussion about where he's at as a character. So we get to see different things where he talks about the trick arrows. He talks about getting back to basics, and he talks about the Green Arrow story that he fought off all these drug dealers, but he's like, you know what, it was actually two guys just smoking pot, and I just caught them and made my way back to mainland, having to do with his origin and stuff. So Micro really kind of takes it back to like, what he was doing and how maybe it wasn't as grand as he thought it was. He was entertaining himself more than he was trying to help people. It was, what's the word I'm looking for here? It was fun. He was more about having fun at that point in his life, and now he's trying to more do the right thing. I think is where we see Green Arrow.
Exactly. Yeah.
More moral compass. And that first book, because it's split into 3 different books, I enjoyed watching them go through things that adults, and they had it wasn't just a superhero comic book, and it added depth. Now I don't know, this might be a thing in most comic books, but this is my second graphic novel that I've read completely, and there's different quotes in there that grabbed my attention, and the writing I thought was great for almost anyone. My favorite quote, and it was my favorite quote, but it happens in there. I'm not sure. It's right at the end of one before we start getting into him searching and finding everything, but where she says, "I love you, Oliver, and I love to make babies with you, but I won't make orphans." And I think that line stuck with me throughout the whole entire book, and I think it sets the tone for exactly how great of the writing is and the emotional depth of all the characters, that which you don't usually see in any of the other ones that I've read, like the little quick random comic books that I've read. I've never gotten that before, and that grabbed me and pulled me in, actually very well so.
Yeah, and that ties in with kind of a theme of this story, which is being, I don't want to say just like midlife crisis, but being at a point in your life where you kind of don't know where you're going. You don't know what's next.
He's in a different stage of his life. He's older now. He sees Roy, who's been like a son to him, but is not, as he said in the book, not his son. And he's at a different point in his life where he wants. And
he's a grandfather because
Roy has a kid. He wants to have the family, and he wants to settle down, but he realizes. I mean, that's the whole point of this. I think he realizes that he can't. And then she brings it to his attention first when she says that line, because that line is that's a hard line to hear.
It's like it's right towards the end of the book, the first run of it.
Yeah.
And they also, this is what we're superheroes. We can't just quit this job. They still need us, and it's powerful. And you get to see the connection that they have and how they still love each other, and they're battling of. It's just like if an adult was to make a career change and how it's going to affect their kids or affect their spouse. They're going through real stuff, and I think that's what made this comic book stick out to me. It was more than just, I'm going to hunt down the bad guy.
Right, exactly. And real quick, which I thought was pretty funny, is in the scene where the gravedigger gets shot, there's a gravestone there, and it says Ray Gunn, and it just says goodbye. And I just thought that was so funny. No years, nothing like that, just goodbye. I was like, that's a little inside thing right there.
Yes, that's on page 39, if anybody really wants to know. Even on the comic books, they tell you that. So you can follow along with that. But yeah, no, everything was great. And she even puts on the Black Canary outfit.
Yeah, during that whole period.
During that first run.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you don't see her in it too. I'm going to keep talking about the Green Arrow run. It's so fantastic. And it really just launches out from this. But their relationship he goes into even more detail in their relationship, and you really understand. I mean, that's, other than Green Arrow being my favorite superhero, that couple is to me the most interesting, and also probably the strongest couple in definitely in DC Comics, I feel.
Okay.
So it's really fun to explore, and he also says the thing though is that Green Arrow has always been kind of fun to me, especially where I started reading, which was Kevin Smith. But there's scenes in here where he stops these would-be muggers and he starts dancing with the woman he saves, and then another shot where he's putting arrows through dudes' earlobes to pin them against the wall, and he's shooting at their crotch, there's I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the show, but there's definitely this funness to Green Arrow, and especially with Mike Grell. That he has this sort of lightheartedness to him. He's very likable, even if he's a flawed character. And he is flawed, and you'll see him do stuff, and he does something in this book that is questionable, and we can just jump right in because obviously it's very filled with spoilers. He kills Dina's attacker.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that'll come up. That'll come up for the rest of his run up until
Really?
up until they did the New 52. It was always a thing that kind of showed up, and then Green Arrow would get some more kills. And sure.
Let's talk about that for a second, because in the book he talks about how he only killed the one time before. Who was the one time before?
Right. I actually don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. All right.
I'm not sure. I should have.
No.
I mean, that's like it's.
I don't even know if
I don't think you need to know who it is, but it's to know that he remembers the one that he did, and you can
It
tell
probably
it
was
haunts
from
him.
the island when he got off the island.
Well, according to this one, the island was a lot more tamer than we know it to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, he stayed on there, and then he found two guys that were collecting their weed, and he was able to get off the island on it. So I don't think he. We don't. But so Thor, you started reading, because this run goes back when you were like a little kid, if not even.
I wasn't born when this came out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you read this whole run already?
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
So when you started with the Kevin Smith run, and then you backfilled to this one.
So yeah, we're jumping around, but my first ever comic, like, there was a moment. I've loved comic books for as long as I can remember. Okay, and there was a time where comic books were, if I was in a supermarket or if I was in a pharmacy and I saw something, I'd get my mom to buy it for me. So I owned all these issues of Batman and Superman that were from all over the place, Green Arrow, though, was the first time I went to Cave for the first time, and this is a comic book store. This is a store that sells comics. I am completely overwhelmed with that store. And anybody who ever went in, especially the old store, like, it's just so amazing. All the comics on the walls and the bins and all the artwork on the wall. But anyway, so I know, like, where do I start, And at that point, I was 12 years old, and I was a Kevin Smith fan. So Kevin Smith was doing his Green Arrow run, which was super popular. I think I could be mistaken, but I think he made Green Arrow like DC's like top selling book.
He did.
And Green Arrow was popular, but not in the way the rest of like the Justice League would certainly be more popular, especially at that time, even now. But so yeah, I jumped on number 11. Green Arrow number 11, and I got all of them. I got all the back issues, and then I started getting all the ones from the 80s to the 90s, and I own a lot of Green Arrow comics, and I've read them. I love them.
He's your favorite character from DC and Marvel?
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with the way Kevin Smith wrote him, because Kevin Smith, he's a funny guy. Like, so he wrote a very funny character, but he also told a pretty interesting story. With that, and then with his son, and Green Arrow ends up being a character who kind of always has this family around him, which is interesting when the Longbow Hunters, when she talks about not wanting to make orphans, but he ends up having this sort of like unconventional family where he finds like an estranged son that he never knew he had, and then he's got Mia, who was just kind of like a street kid,
Okay.
And then he's got Roy, and then and so on and so forth, and then Dina. So he kind of has this family. But yeah, to get the Longbow Hunters, you get introduced to Shadow, like we were talking about before. Awesome character, right? I love that character to death. She's been trained by the Yakuza since birth to avenge her father's dishonor. And that's where she ends up meeting Oliver Queen.
Do they give us way more story of her later? Because I didn't get enough of her story in this.
She oh man, this is where my brain's getting fuzzy. She had a miniseries, I think, by Mike Grell. I cannot for the life of me remember anything that happens in it. If you want it, go to my house and look for it.
So it was the jumping up, her character. Grell. This was the first time we saw her was in this book.
Yeah. He created that character, and this is where she appears.
So you get a backstory, but you don't get too much of how she actually is as a person, because they want to flesh that out later on.
You don't learn a lot about her. You know that she's pretty serious, but she's willing to work with him. I mean, she says to him, like, this one's mine. Like, you can kill everybody, take everybody else in, but I've got to do this. I've got to, like, avenge my father's dishonor.
And I love how he was like a detective at one point, a hunter for fighting his prey. And he says how he goes back to the island just to figure out who he is again, just to learn his story of what makes him special and what makes him better and keeps him focused. But he can still lose it only when the loved ones that he's hurts. And even the lieutenant was really good, like a Gordon-esque type feature.
Yeah. He'll come in again, like this sets up the series. So Cameron will come in again, but he's very like they butt heads a lot more than like say like Commissioner Gordon and Batman does, where it's very much like he uses his help, but he also does not like
his help at all.
No. He doesn't like that he needs his help. He doesn't like that he's in his city. He wants to take him in.
Is that where he normally stays? Is Green Arrow's normal place is Seattle?
Well, Star City.
Star City is where he's.
That's where I thought he was.
It was one of them, yeah. And then I believe that's where he launched out from. I've got my reference point here for like all the old Green Arrows. I don't know when they actually say his city.
Well, that's fine. I was just curious if because he leaves Seattle. He's just there temporarily in this run.
Yeah, I think it was. I'd have to. This is just what I'm guessing, but I think Mike Grell very clearly was like, let's put this character in our world. So let's bring him into a real city.
So it doesn't interfere with something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is of the two companies, Marvel tends to do that a lot, where people
do it all the time.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And DC doesn't because you have Metropolis and you have Gotham and you have Star City and then what's Flash? Oh God, I can't remember.
Central City.
Central City. See what I'm saying? So they do their own fake
Coast
ones.
City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine. Which is cool.
I don't need a city. I was just curious as like because it says Seattle. I was like, I thought he was from somewhere originally.
And I also too, I think they didn't want to. This one was about not being around his surroundings too, so everything is new and you see all the boxes there.
And this was more of a in-depth story of emotion, feeling than it was of the villain. Like,
this is all about him. This is all character. It's all about the character in this. Yeah.
And then go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just thinking of like, was there any particular with the arrows when he was fighting and going back and forth with the villains, and those were from the Vietnam War, right?
No, World War II.
Or was it World War II?
No, yeah. Well, I always think it's Vietnam, but I think that's just because of like my age. Right. And then you got to remember when the book came out.
Yeah, it came out in '87, so it was only at that point. It was only 40 years. What do you call it? So my thing, real quick about this is, okay. So we have the Robin Hood killer, and then the Green Arrow is in town. I didn't think they made a huge push about is it maybe the Green Arrow?
No, because they knew who he was. His like the lieutenant said that we know who you are already, and they also said that he uses different arrows.
Yeah, they made that a huge point because you have the white arrows and you have the green arrows.
Then you have the different arrows and her arrow her arrowhead was made with an open tip with power. And so, they knew the differences of that already.
Well, let's jump back into the one kill that he has in the book. So, she's being his girlfriend is being tortured, and really tortured. Not like being punched or anything like that. She's being cut, and it's at the point now where she's not giving him anything, so they're just going to end her. And he takes the shot. So I didn't have a problem with that at all because he's putting him down. Right? Now, when he talks to Shadow later on, she says, you could have did it any 3 different ways if you wanted to.
You
could have take that shot. Again, the adrenaline is going. I don't know. I mean, does he sit there and think of the different ways he could stop him, or because if you go back to the scene, he's sitting there, please. He's basically willing himself to make the shot to stop it. So
no, he does not. So. With him being a hunter and him being who he is, he could have made that variation shot anytime he wanted. I don't think that was it. I think he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and that's why he also, when he's having that nightmare and the dragon arises.
Well, yeah, in the nightmare he's saying shoot, because he's like afraid, and then as he let go, he says please because he wants it to hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's a tough call if you ask me because it was. But I tell you, everything that happened after that with the the guy getting lit up on fire and everything like that. When he shoots him, I think he shot him in the leg.
Yeah, no.
Right.
So I don't, and I mean, I wanted in the show just a little bit more of to know of the story and the book. Jesus, I'm sorry. In the book, I wanted more of Shadow. But like you said, it happens later in the series, which would make me read further on.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were doing.
And that's probably what they were doing. I love the artwork. I love his like how everything that he wears on his suit. Actually no, she made the suit, but it's hand stitched, like even his moccasins, and you get to see the struggle of the inner struggle that he's facing of like where I've come and where I'm going, and it's pretty graphic. I mean, for my very first comic, I've read The Dark Knight was my first graphic novel, which is, the main one that everybody reads. But reading this one, it allowed a little bit more insight into how different things are done. And I love seeing the artwork. Was fantastic with the pencil drawing.
I love the artwork. The artwork to me, it stands the test of time. You could have told me this was drawn in the 40s. You could have told me it was drawn in 2015. It just stands the test of time. I love the artwork. You go back to The Dark Knight Returns, and I love that story. But the artwork in there is sometimes a little questionable in that, So it doesn't stand up now if you go read that up again. You know what I mean? It's definitely a different style, if you want to say, where this is just, it's got its own style, but at the same time, it really can be any era that has been drawn during the DC.
Capturing. It's captive. And like the pictures where he's drawing her like naked, it doesn't even seem too seductive, or where it's meant to take your appeal away from the book itself. It's to add to the inner, like the shadowing on this is spectacular.
I did a great job.
Yeah, there's plenty of like especially up close shots where it's not inked at all. At least I don't think it is. I'm not the most like the expert art guy, but it doesn't look inked. I think it's colored pencil. There's lots of great shots like that, which is pretty bare, like pencils in, and like I said, I assume it's colored pencil. Yeah, Mike Grell's awesome. He still works. He's 70 now. You'll still see him do like variant covers for Green Arrow or for Arrow and stuff. He does the conventions. I was actually looking yesterday at like what it would cost to get like a like commission work from him. I was like, that'd be sweet.
That would be really cool.
He has prices on his website. You can also buy like different panels and stuff. If you go to his website, it's pretty cool. But we'll get into that a bit. But so yeah, I mean, Longbow Hunter is definitely great, but it's just a glimpse into like the greatness. Like in a lot of ways, the majority of Green Arrow's world for me kind of starts with this story. It came out almost 30 years ago now. I guess it would be 30 years. A lot of time. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that happened before it, and like I said, the Denny O'Neil stuff and Neil Adams is definitely big in the Green Arrow mythology. But when Green Arrow was created, not a terribly interesting character necessarily.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know how much you know this, but he literally had an arrow cave. Okay.
Oh, really?
and he literally had an arrow car, and he had his little ward. You know what I mean? It's pretty clear the similarities there, and for him to have come this far and then kind of morph into his own being, where he's not just like a Batman clone. But yeah, did you guys have anything else you wanted to add to the discussion of before I get into some of the other things?
No, that's all you, bro.
I think we covered a lot of it, so go ahead.
All right. Well, like I was saying, I would love to hear back from anybody who read it and followed the discussion and see what you guys think and see if you disagree with anything. And we want to try to do this once a month and hopefully, kind of find our way with it. This is definitely an experiment today. But I've got some reading that is assigned for anybody who liked this. These were what I thought would be the best places for you to read if you wanted to get some more. Obviously, Green Arrow 1 through 80, which is all the Mike Grell stuff, is fantastic. Go read that stuff. You can get the trades. You can get like the paperback trades. I've got a bunch of them. Even though I've got the comics, I've got the trades that I travel with, and they're great. They're great. You'll learn more about Shadow and you'll learn a lot about Green Arrow as he goes on his adventures. And then if you're a Mike Grell fan, which you should be after reading this, you want to check out John Sable Freelance. Have you guys ever read that or know anything?
It's John Sable sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Okay, yeah, it was. It's a smaller like a comic property, but it's essentially kind of similar in the sense that Mike Grell draws it and he writes it, and John Sable is like he's a gun for hire, you know, and it's kind of funny. He's also a children's book author, like by day, and then he's John Sable freelance at night, and it's really, it sounds kind of weird, but it's funny, but yeah, it's great. It's very similar, at least in like tone and kind of style to Green Arrow. After that, I would start where I started. I would get Kevin Smith's Green Arrow run, which is Green Arrow Volume 3. I think he did 1 through 15, but 1 through 10, I believe, is like the Quiver storyline where, spoilers for when you get, you know, a couple, I think like 110 issues into Green Arrow, Oliver Queen dies. So this is where he gets brought back to life by Kevin Smith in a pretty interesting way, and he comes back, and he had no idea that he was dead, and they're all like everybody's freaked out to see him. It's really interesting. I would definitely go and grab those Kevin Smith ones. They're phenomenal. And then my last bit, if you want to know a little bit about Green Arrow as we see him today, I would try anywhere in Green Arrow New 52, anywhere between 17 and 34, I believe. That is Jeff Lemire Green Arrow.
Okay.
And Jeff Lemire, I'm big on. He wrote Animal Man in the New 52, and I've loved him ever since. And that one talks a lot about Shadow and Oliver's father, and it kind of changes the mythology where Oliver's relationship with Shadow is very different. Oliver's relationship with his father is different. So it's different than the Mike Grell stuff in that whole pre-52 world. But it's great, and I love the artwork in that one as well. So those are the 4 places I would move on to if you guys liked this book and wanted to learn more about either Mike Grell or Green Arrow.
All right.
Sounds good.
And other than that, I think that pretty much wraps it up. You guys got anything else you want to add?
I enjoyed the book thoroughly. I thought it was a great book.
I definitely recommend that you guys get it, check it out. Let us know on our Twitter handle, /_podcast, and Instagram, and you can email us at thesplashpodcast@thesplashnetwork.com. So make sure you guys let us know what you think. We'll take suggestions, comments, everything in between. You will also be catching this one for the first time. If you made it all the way through the 30-minute video, comment below. Thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. We will be putting out more stuff on our YouTube channel more frequently.
Yeah, more frequently is the idea.
Yeah, well,
I'll set those expectations real low.
Anything's better than 0, so it's more frequent.
Yeah,
and you're gonna get a load for the first, a full one for our first YouTube. You're getting 3 episodes for our first YouTube channel. So
and then I wanted to set up the next batch that we're gonna do, and I think we were definitely talking about doing something with what you call it. We're gonna wait and see on that one. As Joe makes. We're going to wait and see on that one until I can do a little bit more research. But in the meantime, just to make the month of March easier, you guys are killing me.
it's okay.
You guys are too tired, I think.
Say it, I can fix it.
Anyway, for the month of April, yes. We're going to go ahead and talk about a pretty popular book. But either way, I think we're going to talk about it's a nice, easy one. And it's going to be Batman Year One.
Okay.
By Frank Miller.
Okay.
You know what?
It's 4 issues. It's a good one. So
now, ladies and gentlemen, that is our next month's comic book of the month. Batman Year One. Go to Cave Comics. Go to your local brick and mortar store. Go to Comixology.com. Pick that book up. That's the one we're going to do. If Mr. Mystery Man, Judge Dredd email, probably writer of Judge Dredd, whatever it is, contacts me back with his information, we will be happy to do that for May. But as of now, guys, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go with Year One Batman. So go out, pick it up, read it, and then come back here next month, the end of April, and we'll be doing a review on that with a little bit of different format, a little bit more insight, and a lot of other things. So let us know. And this is Joe.
And I'm Chris.
And that is your leader.
Thor.
That's it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
And
we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.